So climate and energy issues. The week-long COP28 summit in Dubai has concluded on a cliffhanger with uncertainty around whether consensus will be reached over the text that speaks to the future of fossil fuels. This as divisions play out about its total phasing out as countries struggle to agree on how to limit the effects of climate change. Ziyanda Ngcobo has the details.
The final agreement from COP28 is unlikely to be concluded anytime soon, as oil and gas-rich countries remain resolute that phasing down fossil fuel is the best way forward for all. But, on the other hand, climate change activists, including UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres, believe the only way to arrest the situation is through phasing out those resources. On the final day of the conference, leaders were still calling for a compromise.
What we have seen since is that the parties have deeply held and deeply split views, especially on the language around fossil fuels. It's important to be clear on something. The text we released was a starting point for discussions. Again, this is entirely normal for a consensus-based process. When we released it, we knew opinions were polarized, but what we didn't know was where each country's red lines were. By releasing our first draft of the text, we got parties to come to us quickly with those red lines. We spent last night talking, taking in that feedback, and that has put us in a position to draft a new text. The text includes all the elements we need for a comprehensive plan to 2030. It's all there. Mitigation, adaptation, means of implementation and loss and damage. And we've been seeking the right balance between those elements.
The African group of negotiators on climate change, which prepare and draft texts on behalf of the continent's heads of state, has lamented how there's been a failure to live up to the global goals on adaptation. The negotiators have called for the final text to put timeframes and plans in place for when the money to transition will be operationalized and move beyond just pledges.
The GST outcome, therefore, must promote equity and fairness in the allocation of policy space and ensure that the energy transition will be just, that it will be equitable and orderly. As such, the transition should be premised on differentiated pathways to net zero and fossil fuel phase down. It should also recognize the full right for Africa to exploit its natural resources sustainably and in line with sustainable development and poverty eradication needs.
Nigeria's Environmental Affairs Minister has intimated that for his country, fossil fuels will be around for a long while.
Science has established that if you stop breathing without life support, you will die. Asking Nigeria to phase out fossil fuel, or indeed Africa to phase out fossil fuel, is asking us to stop breathing without life support.
The COP28 presidency has been working day and night throughout the summit, meeting with countries, trying to find a consensus on what the final document will say regarding our goals in the next 7 years and ultimately our 2050 targets when it comes to carbon emissions. Whether or not this will be achieved without further polarizing an already tense geopolitical environment is the test for this United Arab Emirates nation, which has already dubbed this gathering as a success. For Newzroom Afrika on Channel 405, I'm Ziyanda Ngcobo, wrapping up at Expo City in Dubai.